Okay, class, this particular chapter has to do with physical and mental health. Chapter 4 in your textbook there. And the first thing they mention there is physical health, of course, and it's our physical condition, our arms and our legs and how we feel overall, physically. And the first thing they mention on page 1 of chapter 4 is the age that has to do with physical health. And they say age affects the coordination and vision. And I guess that's true for the most part. A lot of older people wear glasses and the reflexes are much slower and they probably can't see quite as well, they can't hear quite as well. But yet statistics demonstrate that younger drivers have more accidents. Older drivers, they say, have slower reflexes and reduced hearing and vision, have less accidents because they adapt by driving more slowly. They depend on their experience to avoid crucial situations, and that probably makes a lot of sense too, class, no doubt. Slowing down in some cases. Young drivers, novice drivers with quick reflexes and excellent vision have to learn to control their impulsiveness and develop their judgment and build up their experience, thus avoiding the pitfalls that produce collisions. That's not to say, class, that a lot of young drivers are just as good as some of the 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds out there. You know, they got good eyesight, good hearing, and they know the rules of the road and go by them, using their eyes and using their signal lights and allowing that nice following distance from the driver in front of them, and all those things that make them a good driver, as opposed to 40, 50-year-olds that probably not using signal lights and following too closely and driving over the speed limit. So not all cases that younger drivers are reckless, as they mentioned here in the book, for sure, you know. There's a lot of good young defensive, competent, responsible drivers, no doubt. Sometimes deciding not to drive is the only intelligent choice, they say, in bold red print there. Well, if you're not feeling physically or emotionally up to par, of course it's probably better to cancel your trip or let somebody else drive that's feeling better, in other words. So the first thing you mentioned there is fatigue or tiredness, of course. If we become fatigued, we're tired because of probably working too long or not enough sleep or some other sports activities or whatever. So they give us on page 2 there, in chapter 4, they give us the causes of fatigue. And you notice the first thing they mentioned there is lack of sleep. And of course, anybody of any age, really, if you're 16 or 76, if you don't get enough sleep, well, you're likely to feel fatigued and irritated the next day and not be able to perform your duties, whether it be driving or at work or whatever the case might be. So lack of sleep is one of the main common causes of fatigue here, no doubt. Boredom or monotony, stress from school, work, or family, alcohol or drugs certainly could cause fatigue, illness, overeating heavy fatty foods, and I always say the turkey dinner. A lot of us, once we have a big hot meal, we want to have a tendency to want to have a nap and feel tired and fatigued for a while. So probably not a good time to start to go on a long drive, class, after a big hot meal. That's what they're saying there. Sun glare or prolonged uninterrupted highway driving. Uninterrupted driving, highway hypnosis, and this driving for long periods of time. And you know, probably you're just in yourself, nobody with you even, and you're listening to the hum of your tires and the little moan from your engine, and you become inattentive to your driving actually. You're just staring straight ahead, not knowing what's going on around your vehicle, not using your mirrors, your rear view mirror or your side views, not looking at your speedometer, and you don't really know what's going on around your vehicle. So you're sort of hypnotized, that's the term they use, highway hypnosis here. Fixating on a single thing such as the hum of your tires or your engine there, as we've said there. Driving during normal sleeping hours. You know, you set out at night, 10 or 11 o'clock, usually our bedtime, to go on a long drive, and once you're out a while, your body is saying, look, you should be back home, lying down, now going to sleep again, and you're probably going to feel fatigued around that particular time of day or night. A long day at school or work. Time of the day, especially between 1 and 5 in the afternoon, and early morning hours. A hard day of exercise such as swimming or snowboarding, you know, that could cause fatigue as well, or exercising or too much exercise, whatever. An overheated vehicle interior, and that's the thing about, like in anywhere classic, we're overheated, like in a classroom, where if it's too warm, we got a tendency to feel tired, fatigued, and probably want to doze off. No different than driving your vehicle. So don't dress too warm, don't have the heater on too much. I don't mean to be cold, but just keep your car cool, and that way you'll feel much more fresh and more alert to your driving for sure. What happens when fatigued? Blurred vision, lower vision capabilities, misjudged speed, seeing double, easily irritable, poor timing of actions, loss of depth perception. Loss of depth perception, dear class, is you're not realizing how close you are to the car in front of you, and you haven't got that really safe following distance, and yet you think you do. So that's what you mean by loss of depth perception there. Taking unusual risks, drowsiness, loss of control, or falling asleep. Very dangerous way to be driving for sure, you know. Warning signs of drowsiness, trouble keeping your eyes open, having difficulty keeping your vehicle at a constant speed. 1 minute you're driving at 70, next minute you're down to 40, and you're up to 50 and back to 30, and you're not consistent with your speed, and that's a sign of fatigue, class, or probably drowsiness, in other words. Your vehicle keeps drifting into other lanes. Very dangerous, isn't it, for sure? Particularly on a two-way roadway. You cannot remember the last few minutes of your drive. How to prevent fatigue? Get plenty of rest. That's a good answer there for sure. Don't drink alcohol or use drugs or take medicine that causes drowsiness. And avoid heavy fatty foods that we just mentioned. That turkey dinner, we say, you know, for example. While driving, take breaks every 2 hours. Listen to music. Don't drive when sick. Keep 4 to 6 seconds of following distance. We'll talk about following distance. I'll just talk about it briefly now, because you've heard me mention it a few times already. So just to clear it up there, and you can check this yourself on the way home this afternoon, whether you're driving or if you're driving with your family member, and you can check your following distance here. And this is the 2-second following distance we're using today. And of course, for ideal driving, remember we said clear day, dry pavement, not a lot of wind, light traffic, it's as good as it gets. So we're using the 2-second following distance. In other words, the distance from you, your vehicle, to the vehicle in front of you there is your actual following distance, or your space cushion, if you want to use another term. So you pick a reference point. It could be a tree or a rock or a guardrail or something that's not going to move, or a road sign. I pick a road sign here because there's lots of road signs. So when the rear of that vehicle is override that road sign there, you start counting your car, 1001, 1002. If you pass that road sign, you're following that vehicle too closely. So you would gradually let up on your accelerator, not a sudden abrupt slowdown, because that might cause a rear end collision. Maybe the driver behind you could be a tailgater. So you would slow down gradually, and the next reference point you pick, you start counting again, 1001, 1002. So you're not up to that sign, well then of course you know that you're following at a safe distance. And that's the 2-second method for ideal driving class. If it's raining, snowing, foggy, high winds, snow or ice on the pavement is not ideal driving anymore. You will probably allow a 3-second following distance, or 4-second on a highway if you're driving at a much higher speed. So it depends on your speed actually and the road conditions. But for around the city or town we live in, on an ideal day, ideal driving, dry pavement, as I said, a clear day, not a lot of traffic, the 2-second following distance should be okay. And that gives us time to avoid a collision. If the driver or the car in front of us should stop short for whatever reason, you've got lots of time to react to it. You can slow down gradually, you don't have to panic or frighten, scare your passengers or anything else. And if you've got lots of time to pull off and park, if you can't get around that hazard safely, and everything usually works out for the best in that type of situation when it comes to establishing that nice safe following distance class. So now that you know what it is there, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later as well. So warning signs of drowsiness, as we said, the trouble keeping your eyes open, the difficulty keeping your vehicle at constant speed, and trouble keeping your head up, you're following too close and don't realise it. Before driving, get plenty of rest, he say, don't drink alcohol or drugs or take medicine that cause drowsiness, and then avoid the heavy fatty foods. And while driving there, you say take breaks every 2 hours, that might be a good idea. Listen to music. Don't drive and keep 4 to 6 seconds of following distance, and that's when we read that we explained what the following distance is there on the chart there. Wear sunglasses to cope with glare, roll down the windows, shift your seating position, constantly scan the environment for hazards. Check mirrors frequently, don't drive late at night during your normal sleeping hours that we just mentioned there. Pull over, stop safely, take short naps in the mid-afternoon, keep the vehicle's interior cool. As I say, not cold, but cool task, because if it's too warm, we're likely to feel that fatigue come over us, tiredness and sleepy or whatever. Ask passengers who are alert to take turns at the wheel. You have another licensed driver with you, let them drive for an hour or two. And you will probably shut your eye or look around and relax a bit. Drink coffee or another drink with caffeine, but note that when it wears off, of course, the level of fatigue can be worse. It's just a temporary fix, class, really. Stop at a rest stop, stretch, walk, jog, or do a light exercise. Don't try to tough it out. Drowsiness is not something that can be fought or challenged. It won't soon pass. The only answer is stop and rest and have a nap there, really. But I wouldn't suggest that you stop on some desolate street where there's highway or whatever, where there's no people around. It's better to go somewhere where there's people, like it could be a shopping mall or some grocery area, wherever there's people. And then, of course, you can park somewhere near that area and just crack your windows a centimeter or so. And if you want to have a nap for a few minutes, that would be the right thing to do here. Make sure your doors are locked. If you want to stop, as I just said, find a roadside rest area. At night, locate a well-lit area. Good advice there, class. Open the windows a crack. Leave the parking lights on, turn off all accessories, relax and try to rest. Don't worry if you fall asleep. And after waking, of course, walk around the car. You want to make sure that you're fully awake before you start up your vehicle and drive again there. They talk about medication. Of course, a lot of drugs have side effects, not only illegal drugs, class, but drugs that you get even from the drugstore, pick off the shelf. Advil, Tylenol, and aspirin, and a lot of other things we have for colds or pain probably could cause dizziness and have side effects. So make sure that if you're going driving anywhere, particularly on a long drive, that it's safe to take those particular types of medication. Maybe you should talk to your doctor or druggist before you go, actually. So, and of course your medication from your doctor as well could have side effects. Most of them do, actually. So talk to somebody first, class, if you're going driving and using any kind of medication. They talk about mental health there on page 4 of chapter 4 there. And of course, mental health will probably have to do with your emotions. And some techniques for coping with emotions, they say there's postpone driving. Wait for another time. Or, again, let someone else drive. You may want to let your friend drive that has a driver's license, for example. Driving in an organized manner, apply your concentration skill, identify situations well in advance, adjust your expectations, avoid heavy traffic areas, and stop driving and rest if your emotions get out of hand. And they mentioned alcohol there, of course, could certainly change your emotions drastically. And they talk about synergistic effect there, and that's mixing alcohol with drugs. It multiplies the separate effect of each drug. So if you had certain medication in your body and you probably only had 1 glass of wine, for example, because of that medication mixed with the drugs that you're taking, even prescription drugs, it could be the same as if you had 3 or 4 glasses of wine. You may not be able to do a good job at driving, class. It could be dangerous. So that's what they mean by the synergistic effect there. You may not find that word in the dictionary, but that's what it means. They're mixing drugs with alcohol. It multiplies the separate effect of each drug. Remember that one. It affects your vision there on page 5. most of the information you need to drive collected through your eyes, of course. And you mentioned visual acuity there, the clearness of vision, that is. So, the field of vision there on page 5 to your lower right there, they talk about the central vision, central conic vision, and your peripheral vision. Of course, your central conic vision is what you see in front of you, and your peripheral vision is what you see to the sides. So you've got these two types of vision there that they're talking about visual acuity, clearness of vision. So on page 6 there, to your upper left picture, there's a picture there of a central conic vision. And you notice that's 3% there, class, not very much, as opposed to the whole 180 degrees there. They just show you 3%. So without moving your eyes, that's about all you can see when you're driving ahead, is 3%. And I can demonstrate this here by holding up this pointer here. So if you're looking at it, and you know what it is because you can see it, that it's within that 3 degrees of conic vision there. But if I move here even a meter or so, and I ask you what I hold in my hand, you wouldn't be able to tell whether you actually move your head or your eyes. So, because it's out of that 3 degree conic vision there. So, this is why keeping our eyes moving is so important. That's when we're driving. Make sure that you always keep your eyes moving, because, you know, it actually keeps us more morally alert, actually, when we're driving. So, make sure that you keep your eyes moving and be in good physical and mental condition, class, for driving. So that's what peripheral vision is there. Vision to the left and right up to a total of 180 degrees. So if you've got fairly good eyesight, for example, that door there, I can look straight ahead and I can tell if someone or something passed that door. I can't identify what it is, but I know that something went along there, most likely a person, I'm sure. But, you know, at least I know there's something there to my extreme left there, or if it's the right on that side. But without actually identifying it, I would have to actually turn my eyes or head and look and see what it is. So, and that's all you can see actually without turning your head or eyes, is that 3 degree conic vision there. You know, you wouldn't be able to identify. You know there's something there. If I put something in my hand and hold it out here, and you look at my face, you know that I'm holding something in my hand, but you can't be sure what it is without you turn your head slightly or your eyes slightly in order to identify that particular pin or marker I have in my hand here. So that's what they're pointing out there, class, the central conic vision. It's just 3%. Other things around us we can see, but it's not clear, in other words. So all the more reason to keep our eyes moving there. They mention visual disability here, monocular vision, the vision with one eye now. There are drivers on the road that has sight only in one eye. They lost their eye through disease or accident. They're probably born that way, God forbid. And we had a student some 6 or 7 years ago that just had sight in one eye. And of course they came here and went through the theory part and went through the training with the instructors, and passed and got their license no problem. So, you know, it's allowed to have a driver's license with just one eye. Color perception, some people are colorblind, can't distinguish, say, a red from a green or an amber, orange, yellow, whatever. So those people can also get a driver's license, but they have to go by position and shape more so than actually identifying the color of a. For example, a stop sign is red with white letters on it, but to somebody that's colorblind, it probably wouldn't appear that way, you know. So they know that it's an 8-sided figure and it's in the shape of it, so they know that it's actually a stop sign because they're all different shapes. So they have to identify by signs and signals and by shape there, as they mentioned. Tunnel vision is an affliction with the normal peripheral vision is reduced to 180, 140 degrees. And some people with slight eye problems probably can only see 140 degrees one side, so they would have to move their eyes and head a little bit more than we would probably, let's say, because they don't see quite as much. Remember, as you increase your speed on highways, your normal field of vision decreases. Remember that, class, because if you're asked anything about it, the faster you go, the less we can see, in other words. And I always use the scenario of an airplane leaving a tarmac. Just before it's ready to take off, you could hardly identify a hydro pole from a tree, for example. Everything is just a blur because it's going so fast. And I just wanted to say that, if you're driving your car at 100 kilometers an hour, you can't see as much as if you were driving at 50 kilometers an hour. Now, I'm not saying you can't identify a tree from a pole at 100 kilometers an hour in your car, but what I'm saying is that you can't see as much driving at 100 kilometers an hour as opposed to 50 kilometers an hour, or 40 or 30 or whatever. And lots of times when you're going through a community, I don't know if you ever noticed that summertime particularly, you get new people coming to your community, maybe tourists or travelers, not used to the place, haven't seen anything in it. You've seen it forever. So you get, they're on ahead of you, they're probably only doing about 15 or 20 kilometers an hour, and you're wants to drive probably the speed limit through your town, 45 or 50. But they know that by going more slowly, they can see more. So just another example of, speed. The faster you go, the less we can see, class. So as they say there, as your field of vision increases, as your speed increases, your field of vision gets less or decreases there. So keep that in mind there. Hearing, we also had students in the past, some years ago, that had no hearing whatsoever from birth. And of course, they came to us and got their theory part of the course and went and did their in-car training and got their license no problem at all. So people with no hearing at all are allowed to drive vehicles as well. So, but of course they would have to use their eyes much more often than we would, because they'd have to watch for ambulances coming behind them and sirens. They wouldn't hear sirens for sure. So they would have to be a little bit busier than we are. And not that we shouldn't use our eyes, of course, but they would probably have to use their eyes a little more often and more faster than normally we would. But they can still drive and be safe drivers as well. The talk about smell, of course, and the car smell, if you have a good sense of smell, it can warn you of something that's wrong with your vehicle, starting to catch fire or something burning in it, whatever the case might be. And of course, they mentioned carbon monoxide there as well on page 7. Up at the top of the page, they give you a picture there of the exhaust from your car going in through the back window. And of course, we often smell gas fumes from our vehicles. I'm not saying it's good for you, but that's not what's really killing us. What's killing us, class, is the carbon monoxide from our engines. And all internal combustion engines give off a certain amount of carbon monoxide. They have improved on them over the years with catalytic converters, and the engines are tuned differently with computers, but still there is a certain amount of carbon monoxide still coming out of engines that we drive every day. And the thing about it, it's so cowardly, we can't smell it, we can't see it, we can't taste it, and that's what kills us actually. We're breathing it in and don't even realize it. So we have to be watchful of carbon monoxide gas, and that's the thing about our cars, to make sure that exhaust systems are in good condition on them, not leaking or noisy or anything of that sort, and not following cars too closely, or when we're stopped. You shouldn't go too close to the car in front of you. Stay back where you can see the rear tires of that car contacting the road of the car that's in front of you. And when you can see that, you're usually probably 3/4 of a car length behind that vehicle. And this is good particularly if you're winter time or any time of year. Sometimes when there's a collision up ahead, you could be held up for an hour or so, or road work going ahead. So, winter time, everyone got their engines running probably to keep the cars warm. So if you're too close to that car in front of you, your engine's fan is pulling that deadly poison into your car, the front of your vehicle, over the engine, and seeping into the passenger compartment where you were. So, to make sure that you stay back far enough where you can see the rear tires contacting the road of the car in front of you. And like I said, it'll give you 3/4 of a car length. And the car in front of you rolls back. You've got lots of space to clear to that vehicle can realize it and be stopped before it bumps your car. Or if the car is broken down, you've got room to pull out rounds and pass. So for those reasons, class, make sure you don't crowd and don't go too close to that vehicle in front of you when it stops. If you're up to a stop sign or a red light and the car in front of you is, make sure you stay back where you can see the tires contacting the road. And you'll be about 3/4 of a car length behind that vehicle, which is a good safe distance. They mention kinesthetic sense there. I don't think you'll find that particular word in the dictionary either, but what it is, of course, is realizing the balance of your vehicle or the emotions of your vehicle. For example, when you put your foot on the brake, you've got a tendency to move ahead slightly in your vehicle. And when you give her the gas, particularly if you're putting your foot on the accelerator a bit too hard or fast, you will settle back in your seat. And when you're making a right turn, you'll be thrown more or less to the left. And conversely, when you make a left turn, your body wants to be thrown to the right. So that's what they mean by kinesthetic sense there. The ability to sense a change in the vehicle's balance. And I think everybody can feel that type of movement as you drive your car there. Distractions, on page 7, they talk about distractions. Of course, on page 8, they give you a list of them there, of distractions, laughing with passengers, arguing and disturbing conversations, tending to children or pets, music, adjusting your radio equipment, wearing headphones, playing music too loudly. All distractions, that's for sure here. Cell phones, handheld, a real common cause of collisions and deaths and injuries this past 8 or 10 years for sure, cell phones. Eating food and smoking while driving, reaching for food and beverages, managing hot fluids and spillage. All that has happened for sure with drivers. Combing your hair, flossing, applying makeup, shaving. I've seen all those, and people reading a newspaper while they're driving, the newspaper spread over the steering wheel, and once in a while they'll look up to see where they are, or probably getting a shave with the little plug into your power outlet, or cigarette lighter used to be, and trying to shave with the rear view mirror on their way to a meeting or some event or another. Women putting on lipstick and eyeshadow while they're driving, and men and women like class, there's no particular. But it's all distractions and very dangerous to driving, no doubt about it. Could easily cause collisions and have caused collisions for sure. Other things, reaching for vehicle controls or objects in the vehicle, reading a map or book of paper, completing crossword puzzle, working or playing on a computer or electronic device, and that would be your cell phone, of course, taking notes and writing letters, watching unusual sights, like reading billboards and acting like a passenger when you're actually the driver, construction zones, watching workers instead of watching out for them, collision scenes, rubbernecking, paying too much attention to a collision scene, playing road games with other cars, especially carrying your peers, engaging in road rage behaviour, very dangerous way of driving class. No, it's okay for a passenger, but remember you're not the passenger now, you're the gentleman or lady behind the wheel, and you're responsible for yourself and your passengers and all other road users out there. Watching the skyline, weather and aircraft, etc. Rubbernecking, watch the police officer pull over another vehicle. Looking at scenic views. If you want to have a good look at those views, class, or if you see a moose in the marsh by the trees, it's better to stop and have a look at it, and then when you're ready, move on. Not pass it and then trying to look back for the next quarter kilometer still see it. It's better to have a good look at it if you need to, and then move on. Get yourself safely off the road, and have a look, and then move on after you're ready to go. The talk about communication systems on page 9 there, and of course they talk about the GPS system and your cell phone and all that. And it looks like there's a picture there on page 9 at the lower left there. There's a vehicle going up the street, and the driver apparently has their setting their GPS system there. And there's a lot of activity there. There's a moped or motorcycle in the left lane there. There's a bicyclist in the left lane. There's a car there. And there's pedestrians on both sides of the roadway there. And there's a line of parked vehicles. So, I wonder, are they going to move over in their lane a bit now and allow that meter of space between those parked vehicles just in case somebody opened the door? and not look first, you know. I doubt that driver's going to see any of those things because they're setting their GPS system there by the looks of things while they're still driving up the street. So not a good example, class. Don't get into that habit. There's no need of it. If you had to do those things, get off the road safely and then set your GPS system or whatever you have to do, or whoever you have to talk to, or text, whatever the case might be. So they talk about pets there on page 9. They show you a pet there, a dog tethered to the seat, which is a good idea, particularly if you don't have somebody with you to babysit it while you're driving, or it's not in a cage or whatever. So that would be a good idea, class, because you know, however much you love your dog, they're still an animal, and you just might decide when you're driving to get down around the floor of your vehicle while you're driving, and a lot of traffic around, and probably in the way of your brake when you need it at the time, and it could cause you to be involved in a collision, you know. So not the thing to do. When you're transporting your pet, have it tethered to a seat like this case showing you there, the harness, and they can't get anywhere around the car. Or it might be in a cage, or at least if you've got somebody to actually look after it for you while you're driving. Certainly not alone when you've got your animal there, because you never know for sure what it's going to do. Regardless how much you love it, you got to think about safety of yourself and others as well, right? So on page 10, lastly on this page, they talk about distractions, of course, through the book there, through the chapter, but they talk about eating and grooming there as well. And again, it could be dangerous, class, when you're driving your vehicle, trying to eat a donut or drink a cup of coffee. You know, there's lots of times you'll only have one hand on the steering wheel, and you've probably got a hot beverage there. It could be spilled on you, and at that instant it could cause you to be inattentive to your driving for sure, if it's only a second or two. So it could cause you to be involved in a collision, you know. In general, when your trip includes toll highways, you must be sure to have the necessary change. Some of those toll highways or freeways, I should say, expressways, I'm sorry, you may have to pay with coin, or some of them will have a transponder chip with them. They use them a lot, and they can just travel on by, move on by, and a camera will take a picture of their license plate, and they will later get a bill come in the mail, and they pay by Visa or MasterCard or whatever. So that's what they're talking about here with the toll highways. We had to pay a fee to use them, in other words. Outside vehicle distractions there, the most common distraction outside vehicles involve unusual sights that capture your attention. And I use the moose, for example, you know, that captures a lot of people's attention for sure. Example of these collisions are scenes, construction zones, and wild animals, crowds of people and unusual vehicles. The trick is to glance at the scene and immediately return your eyes to the scanning traffic situation. And don't fixate your eyes on anything any more than a maximum of 2 seconds, class. They should be back on the road again and know where you're going, what's in front of you, what's to the side, what's behind you, and all around your car by using your mirrors and your rear view and your side views, and also keeping an eye on your speedometer every 8 to 10 seconds, just to know that you're well within the legal speed limit there. So that's the end of this chapter now, class. We'll have assignments for you to do when you're ready there now.